Have you ever asked yourself, if the sun suddenly disappeared, what would happen to our Earth? According to the laws of physics, the sun cannot spontaneously vanish because matter and energy do not naturally disappear. Even though quantum tunneling effects can cause a particle to slip from its original position. With the immense scale of the sun, the likelihood of it completely disappearing is almost zero. However, let's temporarily make this assumption to see what the consequences would be. The moment the sun disappears, we on Earth will not immediately sense any change, as it takes about 8 minutes and 20 seconds for light to travel from the sun. When this light mist reaches us, the global panic and dismay will be unavoidable. Similarly, the gravitational force of the sun, the source of attraction, keeping Earth in orbit, also takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds to disappear as gravitational waves propagate at the speed of light. Therefore, immediately after we feel the sun's disappearance, Earth will lose that pull and start moving inertially, flying in a straight line through space, with the speed limits of light and gravity. Even as we realize the sun's disappearance, distant celestial bodies may still continue shining while their light drifts slowly toward us. For instance, Jupiter will still maintain its orbit and reflect sunlight until about 30 minutes after Earth realizes the main light source has disappeared. Depending on Jupiter's position in its orbit, it may take an additional 30 minutes to an hour for us to completely lose sight of that reflected light. Once the light from the sun and moon ceases, the entire space will only be left with darkness, except for a faint glow from the Milky Way. Mathematician Abdul Ahad has calculated that the brightness from the Milky Way is only about 1/300th of the light. Thus, for a short time, there will still be a slight dim light in the universe. Furthermore, artificial energy sources like electricity and fossil fuels will still function, allowing major cities to continue to glow at night as usual. However, the biggest difference will immediately appear in the ecosystem. Photosynthesis, the natural energy source that creates about 99.9% of Earth's productivity, will be completely halted without sunlight. This means plants cannot convert CO into O. Though our atmosphere contains about 6 million billion kilograms of oxygen, enough to sustain life for a certain period. Thus, while most oxygen-consuming organisms could survive for thousands of years due to this reserve, most plants would die within days to weeks, except for ancient trees that have stored enough nutrients to survive in darkness. Not only that, Earth will also soon become very cold. In the early days, the average surface temperature, currently around 14–15 degrees Celsius, will drop rapidly, exponentially, due to the lack of energy from the sun. After nearly a week, the temperature could drop to 0 degrees Celsius. While humans might endure this level for several months in some regions, after about a year, the average temperature might fall to -73 degrees Celsius. In such a scenario, the only way for humans to survive would likely be to migrate to geothermal areas, like Iceland or the Yellowstone region, where a safer living environment. In most of nature, life on Earth primarily depends on sunlight. However, Earth also generates internal thermal energy. About 20% of this heat is produced from the initial formation process, when meteorites collided and compressed, turning rock into liquid, while the remaining 80% comes from the decay of radioactive atoms, helping maintain a core temperature of about 50 degrees Celsius. Without finding a warm refuge, such as geothermal areas or underground communities supported by nuclear energy, humans may not survive beyond a year since the sun's disappearance. Within 10 to 20 years after losing the sun, thick fog would envelop Earth as the air becomes cold enough to condense steam into clouds, resulting in rain. After 1 to 3 years, the oceans will be covered with a thick ice layer. Ice, being lighter than water, will float on the surface and can currently act as an effective. Thanks to this ice layer, the water deep within the oceans could remain liquid, protected by the thick ice above and sustained by thermal vents at the ocean floor, where water is superheated by energy from Earth's core. This process could last for billions of years, allowing for the existence of some forms of life beneath the oceans, regardless. For instance, bacteria around hot water vents at the ocean floor would continue to live normally. They do not require light to produce energy through photosynthesis, but instead utilize chemosynthesis, converting heat and dissolved substances into essential organic compounds. These microorganisms would then be consumed by clams and tubeworms, and their waste would replenish minerals for the hydrothermal vents, forming a self-sustaining energy circulation system. It is precisely these subterranean ecosystems that could maintain life even if the sun disappears. Instead of becoming a frozen, lifeless iceberg, Earth might transform into a spaceship carrying life, using internal heat to sustain living conditions for billions of years. If one day the sun truly disappears, Earth would travel in a straight line through space at about 30 kilometers per second. Over a billion years, it would traverse about 900 trillion kilometers, equivalent to around 100,000 light years, possibly crossing the Milky Way and passing through thousands of star systems, until eventually falling into the orbit of a new star. At that time, the ice sheet might melt, and the biological processes that once brightened Earth could be awakened again, potentially leading to the revival of humanity. What do you think about the prospect of a world submerged in darkness, where Earth sets off on a real journey through the vastness of space? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And now, goodbye, and wish you a happy lunchtime.